Web3 is changing. The largest ticket seller in the world. Tesla. Elon Musk just changed his Twitter logo. I don't think there's any better way to start this than discussing what is currently happening with the crypto market. The crypto market is absolutely on fire. The last week, the last 2 weeks, we've seen Bitcoin cross over 35,000 multiple times. We've seen Ethereum go over 1,800, which I think it is over 1,800 right now. I think there are signs for a bull market.
Well, and the biggest one being Golden Cross threshold.
And please explain to our viewers, including myself, on what a golden cross is.
It's when the EMEA lines, right? The exponential moving average line on a chart. Whenever they cross over, you got the death cross when you're downward into a bear, and then the golden cross when you're coming up into a bull. And I actually haven't sat there because it's been such a sideways market for so long. I haven't really got all my charts set up, but I saw a couple of articles this week on Coinbase and Cointelegraph, not Coinbase, on CoinDesk and Cointelegraph that talking about the golden crosses occurred, and along with some pretty spectacular price predictions of like 56K, 60K by the end of the year.
That'd be insane.
Yeah,
I mean, by the end of the year, that's 2 months from now.
Yeah,
so that's 60 days.
That was the headline.
That's crazy. Well, also a headline.
Right.
It's a headline trying to get some clicks.
Well, but it's the idea that people feel safe to say big numbers again.
Right. I think we're definitely headed into a bull market. Let me actually restart that because I don't want that clipped. But I think there are a lot of good signs that are pointing to a bull market on the verge. But with the global economy, with what's happening in the world, it's so hard for me to believe that.
You saw the Fed yesterday, though, right?
Yep, the Fed did pause their rate hikes, which is great news for the economy. However, how does that affect crypto? Well, as we've seen the past couple of days, it's affected it in a really positive way. We've had a lot of green candles here, so I'm wondering if that pattern will continue. And what do you think?
I mean, so you got a lot of things to consider, right? A lot of the things that we're seeing are really great for crypto. Fortunately, over the last year, the correlation between TradFi and crypto markets has become divorced, right? The issue with that in the past is that a lot of investors saw the markets for Bitcoin, crypto, Ethereum, correlate with like Dow or correlate with the general stock market, which kind of destroyed the narrative that crypto could be looked at as a hedge in the way that gold is. I feel like that's probably an unnuanced approach to that narrative, but it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the market analysts think that make these decisions. But now that kind of correlation has backed off, we can see that really if, the economy does tank or the traditional finance does start to fail, it's actually one of those, it's still good for crypto.
Yeah.
Because especially for Bitcoin, and I would argue for the Ethereum ecosystem as well, maybe less so for other ecosystems that are not Ethereum or not an L2 of Ethereum. But if you see Wall Street failing, you see big banks, that are close to the or even regional banks start to fail, that's good for people that custody their own funds in crypto and use decentralized banking and trading practices, because that's what it's there for. It's meant to be as an alternative to, Robinhood or something.
Well, so the interesting piece about that is I don't think most people, the average person, doesn't know how to self-custody. They don't know how to create a digital wallet, let alone what a digital wallet might even be.
Right.
So how do you educate people to understand that they can have a digital identity, in the form of a wallet and be able to custody their own assets?
How do I educate, or how does one educate?
We could do both.
Well, I mean, I have a series called Ask Dr. Bitcoin on the Merge. You should subscribe. But how does one educate? You can't boil the ocean. That's the thing. Like you can't expect my grandmother to understand that. You know, she comes from 3 generations ago. It's not going to happen. She's not going to remember a passphrase. She can't remember how to log into Gmail. However, if you are literate enough to understand how to use a phone, the technology is coming. It's being baked in. I mean, you and I use advanced tools that the average crypto user doesn't use that require a lot of technical expertise. But I don't know if you've played with the new crop of wallets, but they're a lot easier to use than they used to be.
Yeah. And you know, the interesting part about what you said is, like, if I'm an average person, I would almost rather go to Coinbase because I know with a few clicks, I can get my assets, I can get crypto or whatever it might be, versus the idea of, you know, custodying my own assets. Is that the right word? Custodying? Yeah. My own assets. It's a little scary to think about, right?
I mean, but it's also scary because Congress wants you to think it's scary. Elizabeth Warren yesterday in a Senate hearing said it was a terrorist finance technique to custody your own funds.
It's horrible that government officials take advantage of, you know, current situations to kind of exploit their agenda. But the reality is we know crypto does not fund terrorism directly. And we also know that because of the nature of crypto, it's impossible for a bad actor not to use it if they're willing to use it. That's definitely a downside of crypto, right? But I don't think that putting a blanket statement over crypto because of, you know, one aspect of it is right. And so we did see Elizabeth Warren go on record yesterday and say that self-custody is for terrorists, which is absolutely insane to say.
Yes.
Basically, I'm a terrorist now.
I mean, if I ever say something that silly, like I would simply never speak again.
Yeah.
Like, that's embarrassingly bad.
Where's the line drawn with politicians and the things they say?
I mean, Trump really did lower the bar for all of us. You can say whatever you want now, and it's it's part of.
I mean, forget even, you know, what he's saying. What about the normal, you know, the normal candidates who are just saying things that we know are not true, that they're blatantly going on record? This is a perfect example. Saying self-custodying is for terrorists. I mean, this is a perfect example.
Yeah, well, it was. I won't lay it all at the feet of Trump, but we do live in the post-truth era, and
for sure,
it doesn't require the level of, because there is no the. People like us who will hold people's feet to the fire in the media are few and far between because there are no margins in it.
Yeah.
Nobody at CNN or at MSNBC or at Fox, they're not doing this because there's no benefit to them.
Yeah.
There's no, they don't make more money off of advertisers by being more truthful. They make it by being more controversial.
Right.
And so it doesn't require fact checking.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if crypto and the idea of decentralization could, you know, play a role in this, where maybe...
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, this is the thing that, I mean, not to veer out of crypto, but it is decentralization. The story that Jen's working on with, like, the death of social media, like, it really does... We hit a... Dunbar's number is the natural decentralization point. It's a sociological concept. About 150 relationships is all the average human is able to maintain at any given point in time.
150?
150.
At one time?
At one time.
So basically right now I can have 150 relationships that I can manage?
Yeah.
I can barely manage one.
Well, but, like, you know, if you look at your friends list on, like, Facebook, right, you could say that you have a touch point and some basis of a connection that you can feel something about for about 150 of those people. If you start to try to have more than 150, people are going to fall off the back end. That's kind of like what the human buffer is. It's a sociological phenomenon.
For sure.
It's not like a hard and fast rule. It's just kind of like this is the general guideline. But when you're building a social network as a for-profit tool, you are like, if you're Facebook, if you're Twitter, if you're MySpace, whatever, LinkedIn, you need that to be as much activity and as much content flowing through. 150 people are not going to be, I mean, think about are there even 150 people on your Facebook timeline today with however many thousands of people you're friends with that produce content every day?
Yeah.
No.
That's
why they want you to have 5,000 friends, not 150. So what is profitable for a social network is not what is natural for a human. When you talk about decentralization, to bring it back to your original question, like decentralized social networks will be natural for us because they won't have to be what's profitable for a large media organization.
Yeah. Interesting. On the topic of social media, something just popped in my brain, but about a year ago from now is when Elon Musk bought X.
That's right.
And, you know, since then, I have used it a lot more, not because he bought it, just because of crypto, but I have definitely seen a lot of changes that are positive, but I've also seen just as many, if not more, changes that are negative. I mean, that platform is so hard to use. If I was not in crypto, I would not be on Twitter. My feed is so dog shit. I'm just going to say it like how it is because it is so bad.
Yeah.
I don't even enjoy going on the platform. Like on Instagram, I feel like it's very targeted. I see like I'm very engaged on that platform. I want to stay on it. But with Twitter, I'm like, fuck, I'm going back into my 9 to 5 out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about this on many roundtables. We've talked about X a lot on the roundtables with our friend Jim. And, you know, I understand the idea that Elon had a vision, but like earlier this week, Elon said that creators will not be monetized on their tweets that have community posts or community notes. Did y'all see that?
Yes, I did. And I think that's a great way to attack the problem of misinformation on social media. It really de-incentivizes people to not post shitty content or false information.
Okay, well, in theory, but the way community notes work, every post has a community note. They are so easily brigadeable by people that this is basically Elon just saying we're not paying you, which I love the spin that it's like that he's really being altruistic with this and wanting truth when he is so petty that he'll like just ban any user he doesn't like what they say. This is him not having money to pay creators. I mean,
well, let's just make it known on the record that, you know, we have 2 big Elon fans here and maybe one not so big Elon fan. But you bring up a very valid point that he is using it maybe as a mask, you know, because they might not have the money to pay for that monetization. However, the community notes thing almost reminds me of Wikipedia, right? Anyone can go on Wikipedia. They can write stuff. However, it's typically, from what I understand, you would know better, it's typically checked. Like if it's false information on Wikipedia, it's only going to survive for so long. And I think it's the same thing with community notes. If I write on someone's, you know, factual post, I write misinformation as a community note, it's going to be very quickly overrun by the truth. So I think also what I like about this is it is decentralizing the platform a little bit more because it's putting the accountability and the responsibility back on the users. And I think that's an important thing, although it might not always work out in favor of what you intend it to in theory, right? But the fact that now users are responsible for saying, hey, this post is true, this post is not, I think it goes back to the ethos of decentralization. They created a platform and said, here you go. Now it's your turn to really manage it, run it, and, you know, work with it. So, well,
it's also, I think it's important to understand the mechanics of the community notes thing. It's not just anybody can leave a community note. Like it's a vetted, somewhat vetted group of people. You have to apply to be in that. So it's not, otherwise it's just the replies to a tweet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit more of a Wikipedia effect. The reason why Wikipedia works is because there's to use the parlance of 4chan, it's weaponized autism. It's the people that are very, very, let's just call them very diligent about their information fidelity. They gravitate towards being a Wikipedia editor, and it's a self-policing group of people. Well, it's similar to the community notes. You have to apply to be in it. You have to give application, and people in the community notes program will vet it. So it can't be just publicly brigaded by casuals, right? Which is something that is a vulnerability in Wikipedia, at least for, flash news events, right? They have to lock down an article if somebody dies or something like that, because people will brigade it and vandalize it.
So I didn't know that. And that's cool. I like it in concept, I guess. It still is a little odd on it because he's such a like free speech, anti-censorship, positing person. But this also leads to something we talk about. You have to pay, right, for the blue check to even be monetized, which is something we talk about a lot in terms of like Web3 and basically having to pay to play and exist within that ecosystem. But that is also kind of the definition of a Ponzi scheme.
Kind of like, I don't know. To me, it's just I don't know what you would call
also,
it.
Look,
it's not a positive thing. The blue check program is annoying.
It's annoying, but it's fucking genius, dude.
I don't know.
If you're not paying $8,
the problem is this. I can't call it genius because the issue is that now you don't know who like is authentically who they say they are, because I can go in, like if William Shatner deletes his account tomorrow, I can go get a blue check William Shatner account.
Well, there's that Twitter account named Satoshi Nakamoto,
right,
who just held a Twitter Spaces.
Yeah.
Look, whether you're a fan of him or not, I think everyone is human, right? The guy said he's going to do one thing, and then in the backside, he's doing another, banning people. He doesn't like this reporter, that reporter. To me, that's just human. Like, listen, he owns the company. He doesn't give a fuck what we have to say about it.
Well, and see, so this week he specifically came out and said in some comment to somebody that you won't need a bank account anymore because X is going to be that platform.
Wow, I'm so glad you brought this up, because there's been so many hints throughout the time since before Elon even bought X that he wants to introduce crypto payments, crypto, rails onto X. And now this week he made a statement saying that X will be like a payment platform or a financial institution. Who knows what that means? But I believe they got their money transfer license.
Well, I mean, it's not hard to get. Yeah.
So
as I found out, it's a free form on the internet. You just got to fill it out.
That's funny. Probably found out the hard way.
That's exactly how I found it out. Yeah.
I'm feeling super energized right now. I have like a lot.
Well, my going back to what you were saying about Elon.
Yeah.
Like, I made the comment on Twitter this week that like the guy who arbitrarily shuts down journalist accounts, I want him holding my bank account money instead of Chase. And then somebody made the cute little comment, well, with all the bank account closures you have, maybe that's better. I don't know. Just don't piss off Elon. You'll be fine.
Well, I mean, what's to say he's not going to stop our bank accounts if it's through X, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But it might be easier to not offend Elon Musk than Chase Manhattan for me. Yeah. So I don't know.
So I'm going to shift the convo here a little bit back to the crypto bull market because some ideas hit my head. But basically, I do think we're actually in a bull market. The reason why is, number one, the charts have been off the rails. We're only looking up, and the technical analysis behind all of crypto has been pretty positive. Number two, major holders of crypto assets are moving their assets from centralized exchanges into self-custodian wallets, which signals that they are not going to sell and that they're probably taking that money out to put into other altcoins. And the reason they're not going to sell is because, let's say it's a $60 million transaction, which did happen yesterday from Binance to a wallet. There's no liquidity for 60 million out in the free market, unfortunately, as much as we all wish it was. That liquidity is in exchanges. So it definitely signals that they're probably not selling anytime soon. And another thing is that the altcoins we are seeing, they are getting more liquidity. So we have more liquidity in altcoins. We have major amounts being transferred out of centralized exchanges, which signals that they are not going to sell. And the charts are all looking green. Baby, we're in a bull run.
Well, and so there's this thing called supply shock that can occur. Right now, we're at record low amount of liquidity for both Ethereum and Bitcoin. And so if you're in a situation where ETFs could be approved at any moment, or the effects of the halving could take place in a couple of months here, where people are like, oh, well, we still need to liquidate or purchase the same amount of Bitcoin for whatever reason, but now there's 10% what was available to purchase that was this time last year. it will affect the chart that much more.
For sure. And I believe I saw something yesterday, but 93% of the entire Bitcoin supply is now circulating. And
out of exchanges, you mean?
No, I mean like out of 100%, 93% of all Bitcoins are in the supply.
Oh,
like, they're in the market.
Have been
mined. Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was saying it wrong. So speaking on that with supply and demand, our favorite friends at MicroStrategy, owned by Michael Saylor, they now own officially over 1% of the entire Bitcoin supply. I don't know whether I should be afraid of that or whether that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, his strategy is to never sell. So for us who hold Bitcoin, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and he's up like $1 billion on his Bitcoin investment. Yeah. I mean, the guy's a genius. I don't even know what they do. I think they literally just buy Bitcoin.
I mean, once again, I shy away from calling him a genius because he gets so many things wrong. But the one thing he does get right is buy and hold and never sell.
It's like that meme I've called the 9 out of 100 last, or I don't know how that meme goes, but you know the one I'm talking about? It's like I've called 9 out of the last 7 bull runs or something like that. Yeah. Whatever that meme is, that shit's funny. Yeah, I'm just feeling the energy coming back to crypto. Crypto Twitter is on fire right now. The atmosphere is definitely changing. However, I'm still a little bit skeptical just because of everything going on in the world and the economy, and obviously the fact that the Fed has paused the rate hikes is a green light. It's a great signal.
Yeah,
but I would not be surprised if some sort of major event will break out soon, like maybe a World War III or some sort of disaster, which will completely affect every single market. So I don't know. We'll see.
So if a war occurs that we end up calling World War III, it will definitely evolve out of what's going on in the Middle East and what happened.
There's no question.
And what happened in Ukraine, right?
There's no question.
And so that, to me, says let's take a look at what occurred 2 years ago when the Russian-Ukrainian conflict entered its current hot phase.
Yeah.
Right? And so the market conditions were a little bit different at the outset. It was a warmer market, but it was on the downside, right? It was on the downhill slope of a bull market. And but what we did see is during that period of time, and this is part of my report that I did for the NCRI on the topic, over, I would say it was like $750 million, no, $500 million was raised for mission-driven, increasingly anti-state, anti-governmental funds. Like the $100 million was raised for Julian Assange.
Yeah,
$100 million, $115 million was raised for Ukrainian evacuation and resistance. You had $6 million that was raised for Ross Ulbricht. You had $10 million that was raised for the Ottawa trucker protest, all on crypto.
Yeah,
all mission-driven. So what I'm saying is that in a period of time, and we all know that speech gets restrictive during war.
Yeah.
Privacy gets restricted during war. That's when the Patriot Act came out, was during our last major world conflict. So that's when crypto's time is to shine.
It's an interesting take. I don't disagree, but I don't think that the level of adoption is quite there yet.
But it will drive adoption, that's my point. It drove adoption in Ukraine. They set up a digital ministry, Ministry of Digital Transformation, which was all about educating the Ukrainian and local Ukrainian and Ukrainian expat community on how to use all manner of digital tool, including crypto, including DAOs. Alona Shevchenko, my co-founder at Ukraine DAO, played a large role in defining that curriculum. It was subsequently asked to speak at the next Davos convention in for what is that called, the World Economic Forum, to talk about her the idea of sovereign DAOs and DAOs for resistance movements. So this is a thing.
And we know crypto is definitely picked up in activity since this war has started, and not saying because of terrorists or anything. I'm just saying when people don't have access to one thing or another, they're going to go to something that's easily accessible. And if you have an internet connection, you can basically use crypto now.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see if conflict escalated, how that would affect the crypto industry. But one could probably assume that it would drive adoption to some degree because people need that kind of access. But on the other side of the coin, the prices of things and the actual, you know, market growth and market, like the development, the maturity of the market is probably going to stagnate a little bit, because who the hell cares about working on crypto and developing on crypto when I'm about to be drafted?
Well, yeah, that's always the case, right? Bull markets are not good for devs, right? It's not building season. It's cash in and buy a Lambo season, right? So, but like this isn't just, you know, you can even look further back in crypto's history to see evidence that I mean, not to say that I'm pro-war, but like conflict, strife, and negative economic circumstances are good things for Bitcoin and crypto. The first major bull run was driven by austerity measures in Cyprus, where basically it was the beginning of, you know, all the austerity movement in the EU, and they were saying, well, you know, Cyprus has to pay some bills because we owe too many countries too much money. So we're just going to take everybody that has a bank account in Cyprus is going to take a haircut. And it was like the first major boom for Bitcoin's price. Like it shot up over $113.
Makes me want to take all my money out the bank and put it in Bitcoin.
Right, and then the same thing happened with the other pigs nations in the EU, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, and similar, you know, mini bubbles emerged after, you know, their austerity measures were announced, and Bitcoin was an available way for people to preserve their wealth.
Yeah,
you know, and look at Venezuela. Look at every place where economic collapse has happened. It has been a boon for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
So you're saying war and conflict is good for the Bitcoin market?
Yeah, it's not bad for it.
So you're also saying Logan Paul caused what's going on in the Middle East right now?
I mean, I don't know that, but it sounds like a good scapegoat. Let's call
definitely
it.
Definitely a correlation there. Definitely.
Just mining the clips, right?
Yeah, no, of course. That was great.
He's going to bust through like the Kool-Aid man from the door and challenge us to a cage match or something.
What happens to all the ETFs that are waiting to be approved if a World War III situation did occur? We know there's a deadline. I believe that it's in February. Let's say that deadline comes around. We're in a World War III type of environment. Do these financial institutions even care about these ETFs? Does the SEC even care about these ETFs? Or does the narrative shift completely? We're putting all this crypto talk mumbo jumbo on pause, and we're all focused on the world war.
Well, I mean, SEC is only concerned with domestic affairs. Like, Europe could be on fire and the SEC is still going to wake up and do its job the next day.
I guess it's true, but what kind of backlash would government institutions face if there was a World War III situation in which the citizens of that country, in this case, let's say America, were involved in some sort of conflict? Meanwhile, at home, we're talking about getting BlackRock, the biggest financial institution in the world, approved on a new financial product that's going to make them tons of money.
I mean, how far deep the conspiracy rabbit hole do you want to go? I mean, like capitalists are going to capital, you know.
Yeah,
like it's
capitalists are going to capital. You hear that, Sohail, Mr. Producer?
Well, I mean, like, look, war is a business too, right? The whole reason we're having a war right now is because Russia and the United States both need to replenish their military stock.
Yeah,
right. That's the whole.
Who's the one that says like war is good for business?
George Carlin? I don't know.
Somebody. It's somebody in BlackRock, I think.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
I'm telling you, they say war is good for business. And as we've seen with the start of the conflict in the Middle East, every stock of war manufacturer companies in the U.S. has only went up.
Right.
And think about how much insider stuff is going on there. We got people at the DOD, we got people in the House, people in the Senate, people probably in the freaking White House, who are invested or are in bed with these companies.
That is wild. Wow.
Well, I mean, it's true though. I mean, like, look at.
I'm sorry, I was being sarcastic.
You could just.
It's true though. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think the big reason why, we're not engaged in a hot war, but we're so supportive nationally in Ukraine is because, the military industrial complex.
Yeah.
We get to sell them. We get to look altruistic by selling them armaments. We get to make some money for the U.S. military budget to go turn around to Lockheed and Raytheon and buy some current gen stuff.
Yeah.
To replace our stock, because we can't not have military armaments.
It's crazy.
So
the world is in a scary place, I have to say.
Right.
There's a lot of energy globally that is very sad, in 2023 to consider people can still be so unhuman. And I'm not talking on any side. I'm not talking about any particular group or anything. I'm talking generalized the human civilization. It's very sad. Mm-hmm. Very sad.
Well, when specific humans aren't customers and there's a bottom line and what Mark's talking about, replenishing stock is involved, that's where you get your biggest shortcomings of capitalism, Mark. It's like, it doesn't matter. These people are not as important as the bombs that are killing them.
For sure. I totally agree with that. I mean, that's corporate America though, right?
Right. So when you're going back to your original question, it's like, so if we have a World War III, does the SEC still approve? Well, I mean, if BlackRock wants it,
they're going to get it.
Yeah, Raytheon wants a war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So they get it.
Yeah.
And so if BlackRock wants a Bitcoin ETF, they're big enough to have that regulatory capture.
Yeah. It's tough. It's really tough to think about. And, it's sad that the world is going through this, and hopefully, it all clears up soon. But
this is why this is the end of every keynote that I give for a conference on the topic is crypto is the poison pill that solves the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because all the tool that makes all this possible for regulatory capture of large megacorps of the government is control of the money supply. And being able to socialize corporate losses in America across the entire world by making us the world's reserve currency, right?
So what happens when the government just starts controlling the crypto industry?
How are they going to control Bitcoin?
They could just... Okay, I have a very good scenario here. Let's say we have 5 companies and they each own 10% of the supply, which... that probably will not happen in our lifetime, and if it does, I'd be super surprised. But let's say you have 5 companies. They each own 10% of the supply. Oh, and funny enough, all 5 of these companies have very close ties with the U.S. government.
Sure.
Now, the U.S. government ultimately can control 50% of the supply.
Did they also buy 50% of the Bitcoin miners in the world? Because that's what's required to make that work.
I guess it's a great point.
I think so. Like, the argument here is that the tech, the cryptography part of it, is what makes it unique in terms of providing a pure free market, for lack of a better term. If you're talking like, political theory wise, or,
Right. It shies away from Keynesian and MMA. Was it modern monetary theory, MMT style manipulation, because it cannot be manipulated at that level unless you have more money than literally the United States government has.
Yeah. And also it's interesting to think about, now that 2 things. Number 1, the crypto market has evolved so much, just going back to 2008 when the white paper was released to now. I mean, to conceptualize the amount of change that's happened in the industry is insane. And the change to come is also going to be very vast. What's interesting though is now that I've spent some time in crypto, it's been some time, many years. It's crazy to kind of take an outsider's perspective and look back into it and be like, hold on, some of this stuff is a little fishy. Like, you think about the idea of Bitcoin, and really it's when it started, at least. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea was fully a Ponzi scheme. Hold on, let me just finish. The idea was people telling other people, like, buy into this idea. And people over time bought into the idea, and now it's solidified as, a digital currency. But what people forget is that throughout history, when there's been anything in regards to money or belief systems or anything. It's all a Ponzi scheme. Any company's a Ponzi scheme. I'm working for the boss who's getting every one of my dollars that I bring into the company, and I'm getting what, a certain fraction, a proportion of that.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, like almost everything is a Ponzi scheme, and that's why I think with this argument for crypto being a Ponzi scheme.
So let's actually define a term real quick. Pyramid scheme and Ponzi scheme are two different things.
That is true.
So a Ponzi scheme means you are paying out rewards to the first people in the pyramid from the sales of the proceeds of the latest people in the pyramid.
Yeah.
Right? A pyramid scheme implies that it requires word of mouth marketing to grow like a pyramid, but it doesn't necessarily pay out like a Ponzi.
Okay.
So Bitcoin, like everything else you're about to describe and we're describing, is a pyramid scheme because it is a word of mouth growth engine.
Yep.
But it is not a Ponzi scheme because the payouts don't come directly to the people at the top of the pyramid.
Well, there is no one at the top of the pyramid of Bitcoin, right?
Right.
So it's really interesting. There's this massive documentary on YouTube, has a couple million views, called, you know, Crypto is a Scam. Like, or you know
Yeah,
what I'm
I remember
talking
that.
about?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a pretty big one. And honestly, a buddy of mine sent it to me a couple weeks ago, and I watched it. And, you know, he was making some good arguments, especially during the NFT run, where, you know, there was a lot of pyramid Ponzi schemes going on, and I have to agree with that. However, the most important part that Mr. Producer brought up and that everyone forgets is that it's all about the tech at the end of the day. If you're buying a picture of a monkey, that is your personal responsibility and accountability to invest that money hoping for some sort of return. And they might market it that way as well, right? But what people forget is that it's not, the monkey is not the revolution. The revolution is the technology that hosts the monkey. Mm-hmm. And as we see with time, as this stuff develops, I mean, there's so many more use cases and so many advantages to using this tech versus what we currently have. And that's what I would like to remind people, is that as much as you might think it's a pyramid scheme, it's a Ponzi scheme, at the end of the day, all true crypto and Web3 enthusiasts care about is the tech. Yes, I care about Bitcoin. Yes, I care about Ethereum. But do I know what's going to happen with them? No. What I'm concerned about is how is this functioning and how can I apply that to solve real world problems today?
Right.
So I think as, you know, we continue in these different cycles of the market, we will continue to see further developments of the industry that not only prove it's not a Ponzi or pyramid scheme, but further enhance the idea that this technology is revolutionary.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it is very reductive. Specifically, that one YouTube video you're talking about is very reductive in that it has a lot of things that ring true but fall apart upon further inspection.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest case with a lot of people who call crypto a scam is, on the surface level, I can completely understand why you would think it's a scam. I could completely understand why you think there isn't value there, but you just haven't went deep enough. And I think that's something in my journey where it was like, the way I learned about crypto is by spending hours upon hours just literally reading, and I do not like reading. And after a time, your brain clicks and you're like, holy crap, there's something here. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest problem, is people don't have the time or the patience to understand this. And who would, right? Like, this stuff is very complex. I feel like I'm still learning every day. So I mean, we'll just see with time.
Yeah. I would say that there will never be and this goes to your first question. How do you explain this to people? There's not the people that will spend time to understand what's going on at a deeper level it's never going to be the general public. But if you bring people to the table, and we have at like the round table, like Dina's not a technical person. Yeah. I'm not even talking out of school to say that. She'll be the first to admit.
Yeah.
She was until we had one of the discussions, either the round table or in the green room, she was not aware that we were off the gold standard for the US dollar.
Wow.
Right. Which is not common knowledge. Like we can't expect people to know that. Like that's really like in our world, in crypto, like everybody knows 1971 was the end of the gold standard. It's been since Nixon.
Yeah.
Right. But there's like, I would say if you ask 10 people on the street, maybe the next man on the street interview series you do that, just ask them, you know, hey, what backs the US dollar? See how many people say gold. Like,
it's so funny. I bet honestly you'd get a high percentage of people saying gold. And you know what's funny that you mentioned that? With crypto, it's like, yeah, you're right. People aren't going to spend the time and whatever on it. But the reality is with crypto, it's right in your face. Every major government, every major institution and company, every major player that is of existence has in one way or another recognized crypto and is working on adopting it in some sort of way. So when people talk to me and they're like, oh, it's a scam, oh, I don't understand it, this and that, I don't care. You don't have to. You can see every large institution and government is looking into it and finding a way to adopt it.
Right.
And I think that is the clear message, is like, if it's right in your face, there's obviously something there. It's not just some sort of, you know, internet magic.
Right.
So,
thing that frustrates me is that there is a percentage that's not the general population that would want to look into it, that crypto has such an optics problem because the past couple of years that those people get lost. And I would have been one of those people if I'd never met y'all, probably, until I did look into it. You know, it was just a matter of time. But then you get into the cryptography asymmetrical curve and try to figure out how to marry the concept of crypto as a financial asset or a market versus its use cases. But
I mean, yeah, is the whole, like, so if you look at it on a political spectrum, because I am one of the people that does believe that you can't extract cryptocurrency from the political underpinnings, right? If you look at all the core principles of the technology, it's about privacy, it's about owning value,
anti-government.
It's about individualism and being anti-state. These are all intrinsically leftist values, right? Like, these are values that tilt towards the left-hand side of the spectrum, meaning, you know, traditionally on the, like, the right to the left, the right is more conservative. The right wants the government to, you know, take care of the people. The left wants people to take care of themselves and have freedom from the state and not be oppressed and that sort of thing. And these are all core values that crypto enables, you know, leftist principles.
Yeah.
But if you look at the ideological makeup of cryptocurrency and crypto, you know, Bitcoin culture, it very much tilts to the right. It very much tilts towards libertarian, which turns off anybody to the left side of the spectrum.
Well, I think the biggest thing with crypto is you want to keep it as nonpartisan as possible. You don't want to involve politics. It has nothing to do with politics.
You can't do it. You can't do it. It's intrinsically political.
The voice of God.
The coolest part of it is that it's a tool that can be used for anti-capitalist or anti-state I didn't say that.
No, but like, so I mean, everybody white paper day was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So the 2 days ago is the anniversary of the
Bitcoin white paper.
The two seminal documents that predated the Bitcoin white paper in the same mailing list that Satoshi Nakamoto published the white paper to were the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto and the Cypherpunk Manifesto. Have you read either one of these documents?
I have not. Please
absolutely must read. And they're one-page documents.
Send them over.
They are revolutionary.
Yeah.
And they are foundational to what Bitcoin is, which is foundational to what the entire crypto ecosystem is, which is to say the government says you don't need privacy. Let us take care of you.
Yeah.
And we, as cypherpunks, as crypto anarchists, say, not only do we need privacy, we should have exactly as much privacy as we want at any given point. And code is a better arbiter of what we can keep private than law.
And to divorce crypto from partisanship or politics in general would be to just like maintain the status quo and try to force crypto into just the financial asset, just, you know, replace it with money, which is not the, you said it earlier, Mark, that's not that's not what crypto is about.
Right.
I love that you guys can like critically correct me, because now I feel like I understand it differently, you know?
Well, I mean, so I think what you're saying has a lot of sense, because in the traditional like mainstream understanding of what politics is, we only see the spectrum of left to right.
Yeah.
But if you look at political theory holistically, and certainly if you look at it the way that early adopters in crypto did, it's more of a spectrum of chaos. Like put it in D&D terms, good and evil and chaos and order are the two axes on this thing. And I would say that most people in the foundational group of crypto are going to fall, with a couple of notable exceptions, are going to fall on the chaos side, the anarchy side, which is like the vertical axis. They're down here, and they're going to they want the world to be good, not evil, but they don't want a government to force us all to be good, because that's just as bad as, evil people running amok.
Right. Well, Mark, Dr. Bitcoin, this was great.
Yes.
It's a great conversation.
It's always fun.
Always fun. Always have some good convos, and I love that Mr. Producer continues to challenge us and makes us think differently.
Yeah.
Cheers to crypto and coffee.
Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching The Merge. We've got a ton more stuff for you to watch on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Check us out.